Well, I wasn't there for you and also you didn't ask for any help.
I wasn't
So
capable because I didn't ask anyone for any help. And it took me a year. It took me. So this is it. What I did, my spinning plates included the idea that I have to look after myself. I have to deal with my own stuff. And because I chose the overwhelm and went right into it, I really needed some support.
Well, you had nowhere else to go, right?
That was my version of you cutting the cord and having nowhere to go. My nowhere to go was into the overwhelm. That's a good way of putting it. And again, this is the weird thing. It provided some structure. Even that provided some structure because I was playing the program in my head of investigate it, understand it. Only you have to understand it. You have to figure it out. It's up to you. It's up to you. Which was another one of my spinning plates. And I had no way to actually even articulate the level of overwhelm I was in. I couldn't even describe it to myself. I couldn't, there were no words that I had that could really convey it in a way that, that in my view back then could even elicit some form of help. And even like going to the therapist, it wasn't really for the help. It was for the idea that I'm doing something for myself. I'm doing it. I'm understanding it. It was for that program. It wasn't for the program of
doing something for you without even having a goal attached to it is probably one of the most powerful things you can do, because it's going into it's allowing the unknown to come into your life.
And that was exactly it. That's why I chose to go in, because it was the only way into the unknown that I could see. All the other programs just sent me back to all of those spinning plates and actually the emotional heaviness beneath them, which was overwhelm. And then when I was in the overwhelm, I thought, finally, I'm here. Finally, I get the chance in my life to tackle this because it's here and it's unavoidable and I'm in it. And I didn't ask for it, but it's here now.
You want it.
Yeah, I wanted it.
Yeah.
And part of me wanted all of it. I wanted all of it. And the image that I have is just the gaping hole of darkness opened. And I just took off all of my clothes, picked up a sword and jumped in.
Yeah.
And
who would have been your worst enemy in that situation?
You.
Exactly. Yes.
You were.
But if I'd have helped you, right? You wanting my help was asked, I'm going to say it, okay? And then we'll find out, okay? Wanting someone else to do it for you, wanting someone to hold your hand on the way in to the abyss is actually denying yourself the intensity required, because you are on your own going into it. And my journey has also involved wanting you, or wanting someone to hold my hand on the way into the abyss, and realizing that the wanting someone else to hold my hand on the way in is the enemy of truth.
One thing that we should say is that prior to doing this podcast, I shared that there was something that I'd let go of about you, about the father figure stuff. And that's what I did before I came to visit you. And me coming to visit you was basically us seeing each other and speaking again after about a 2-year period of not speaking to each other.
We had a good year of actually not really talking.
Yeah, I think it was more like 2 years. And
Probably.
that was conscious on my part because I wasn't going to
Me too.
hold your hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'd lost interest in having wanting my hand held.
Yeah.
So I'm like, even today, like, I notice that this relationship doesn't help me at all. In fact, it's a hindrance. I find it's nothing to do with you. It's 100% me. Like there's still, so the way I put it is there's still a lot of energy that is going in the wrong direction. And I can see my energy is going in the wrong direction. And having you there, or my idea of you there, is kind of a huge distraction.
Is it another spinning plate that you want to let go of?
It's one that I don't really. Yeah, but indirectly. I'll give you one spinning plate. I'll give you a very simple example. Spinning plates, really dumb as hell. But we have a topic in this household of stuff going missing. We have those little blue cards that you get that you put in your car where you park somewhere and you turn the dial and it shows the time on it. So you put it in when you park somewhere and you put the time on it to show that I parked at this time. And, you know, you've got 2 hours to come back or whatever. You've got those little blue plastic things. On the back of those, there are little plastic coins. There's always 3 on the back of those. And they're good for shopping trolleys, right? Now, all of mine have gone missing, mysteriously. And the other day, I saw one lying on a bedside table. And I saw it, and I thought, that's mine. And I was looking at it, and it was this inanimate object, this nothing, this piece of nothing that was sitting there. And I really saw that it was nothing. It wasn't even a coin. It was just nothing, which is a very hard thing to put across to people who've never had that experience of seeing something and seeing it as being nothing. Because it isn't saying something's nothing like disregarding it. It's actually looking at it, and all labels attached to it drop away. And the emotion of that's mine was just sitting there in juxtaposition to this nothing. And that feeling of that's mine just had nowhere to go. And it was so powerful that I just stared at it for minutes, processing that, well, not even processing, but experiencing that raw emotion of that's mine, like the toy that was broken at Christmas time by my big brother.
But was it the feeling
kind
of
level
mine,
of intensity.
like you're worried that someone was going to take it? Like that's mine, like with a fear, or was it that's mine with a joy?
It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's like. Who cares?
No, I
like,
mean your
because
experience. Like, what did you feel? You said you had an intense experience. Like, what was the feeling behind that?
Okay. Well, one thing that's quite strange these days for me is that emotions kind of melt into sensation. So like one thing that I would have called X, like, I don't know, like fear of loss, let's call it, isn't that anymore. And once the word drops away from the emotion, or the label drops away from the emotion, the sensation intensifies, and it isn't restricted by the label, and it just becomes sensation. And so the emotion is difficult to pinpoint anymore, because you can't really necessarily tell the difference. We talked about it last time, I think, when we were saying like good and bad. And like it just, that kind of stuff becomes a joke, like happy and sad. Like you have a label for a feeling that you're calling an emotion, and you're saying it like there's some kind of idea behind it where you say this is a bad feeling. And instead of that, what's in its place is a sense of overwhelming sensation.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting you say that feeling of, or that realization that you've got like bodily feelings and emotions, and sometimes it's difficult to disentangle them or label them. And that was something that really switched on for me when, when I was in this kind of pain situation that I mentioned before. Because one thing that happened during that time was my emotions turned on, and it was like they weren't switched on before. I think because of survival patterns. At some point, the overwhelm was like, felt like it was partially caused by the system getting turned on. You know, something pushed a switch in my head to turn on feeling in general, and in there was a lot of difficult feelings, but in there were also good feelings, which started coming through much more intensely. And it was really difficult to know what they all were, quite frankly. And then there was one day in particular, I was sat at my desk at work, working from home, and I just got hit by this wave of like gut wrenching kind of feeling. And it was very almost rich in intensity, and it felt quite varied, and it felt awful. And I had to Google it. I had to Google, where do you feel sadness in your body? Because I thought it was maybe intense sadness. And I found websites that describe where or how emotions manifest in your body, which became super useful and interesting to help understand what all of these sensations meant. So, for example, because it just wasn't clear. Like, it just wasn't clear to me how the label mapped to the bodily sensation. So, of course, I understood anger, understood sadness in a kind of in a rudimentary sense, I would say, up to that point. And then it just became much, much clearer. The signals became much, much clearer as I started paying more attention to them, and then labeling them correctly actually helped. So I think, that speaks to what you were saying. It does. Sometimes you don't really know. You just feel like your body's doing something. You don't really know what it is. You can maybe decide that it's good or bad, but deeper than that can sometimes be difficult. Takes practice.
Yeah, and that's where you and I really have diverted, because that's not what I meant at all. So I understand, like, there's the understanding, and it is powerful to, because I do that too, right? So there's like, there's still the need to understand, like, what is this? What, like, and having sort of a labeling of it, or that even sort of saying that you have feelings and they're confusing. But how do I put this? If the search is over, then then you know that searching doesn't help. And while the mind seeks to label things and finds it helpful to understand, the freedom comes in realizing that the label is a prison also. So something arising in the body and saying, oh, that's sadness. You can go through that exercise, become very attuned to the feelings in your body and giving it labels. So then it gives a level of comfort. I'd say there's a black hole beyond that, which is the black hole of even letting go of those. And that's what I mean. I don't mean that I'm having feelings and I'm confused about what they are and I'm trying to work it out. In a sense, that's kind of what's happening. But I know that working it out is not to put a label on it. Working it out is to open the aperture and be like, I'm not going to call this anything anymore because I can't say that it's the opposite of something else. I cannot construct the opposite of sad in order to call this feeling sad. The feeling of the opposite of sad is not like the opposite feeling, is it? It's just more energy in the body. Your mind is just a hammer. It's a tool, and you can put it down. And it's almost impossible to see that you can put your mind down because it's not, because your idea of you is your mind. So you can't be the one to put it down. The universe does it for you. So there's no searching for a label. It's the searching for labels is like, it's still there and there's still emotions and there's still getting trapped in, let's say, cycles and loops. But like the belief that there's anyone there is gone.
Yeah.
So when you said you weren't there for me anymore, it's kind of true because I'm not there anymore.
I understand what you're saying about getting trapped by a label. If you're searching for an emotion, the labels can get you trapped in the searching for another label.
Yeah.
How do I change this internal state to map onto a label, a word?
Yeah.
As part of the search, everything is a trap because the searching is the trap. And the searching,
Exactly.
the only thing that can come from a trap is more traps. And the searching itself is the trap. And that's what you're saying. What I'm saying is different. What I'm saying is recognizing what there is. But whether you're searching or not, the feeling is the feeling and the label is a label.
So okay. Yes.
And what I'm saying
So
is,
there's-
what I'm also saying is that because we're coming out of survival strategies here in what we're talking about, the labeling can be wrong. It can just be way off. And in some sense, it's better to have a more accurate label than a wrong label. And even if you have an accurate label, you still don't know where it comes from.
Yeah. No, like I said, like it's, yeah, true. Like the other day, I thought, like, I didn't know that I had doubt. I thought it was just shame. I didn't recognize it as doubt. Hmm.
And you can call that relabeling a trap, but it also doesn't have to be a trap. It's just relabeling.
No, exactly. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it can. Yeah, sure. Just using a lot of words like like understand, and like you said, you definitely went down the path of for me, you went down like two different routes that I just don't really have access to, which is, you went down some kind of weird, deep symbolism path, which you haven't even touched on, I don't think, which is like the most interesting part of your journey, as far as I'm concerned. And then you have this very sort of intellectual kind of approach to it. It seems intellectual, at least, and very understanding. And it's like and it still feels like, to me, sometimes it feels very much like world building. Like
yeah. And I wonder how much of that is you projecting or you seeing me through the old lens of who I was.
Exactly.
Because for me, it's not intellectual at all. That got burnt to the ground. When I label something, there's nothing to hold on to. The labeling of something, to think that the labeling of something is good or bad is an intellectual step, but there can be an emotional step. Like when you label something correctly, there can be an emotional step that you feel.
Yeah.
Like which you
like
described even, which is not an intellectual step, but it's still labeling.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It can cause an emotional release if you find out. So for example, I was in therapy 2022. Things like therapy was kind of making things worse to some extent. Well, I've got no idea if it made things worse or better, but the pivotal moment was when the therapist said, "You can't help how you feel." And suddenly, a whole new world opened up to me, in the sense that I looked at it and I said,
"You're off the hook."
Well, it was kind of like, it wasn't something I could solve. It's like, if you cut your finger, it's going to bleed. And the way you heal is you do nothing. You do nothing.
Yeah.
You have to do nothing. You can put a plaster on, you can put disinfectant on, both good ideas, but actually your body just does it. And her saying that, I said to her, so I couldn't believe it. I said, are you telling me there's nothing I or anyone else in the universe can do to like change? Like, by change, I mean in the moment, change. To control this. And she said, no.
To manage.
And I said to her, why the F did no one ever tell me this before? So when I'm talking about labeling emotions, it's from the viewpoint of someone who'd never really felt it. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. And that's why I went into the abyss, because I thought it's better to feel all of this than nothing, because I spent years feeling nothing. And now I'm feeling this.
Feeling nothing. That's true.
And I spent, I thought
that's not me at all. Numbness.
Better to feel the. Sorry, go on.
Oh, that's it.
Better to feel and live than to be a waking emotional zombie.
That's choosing life, Gaz. Feeling it all. Feeling it all is choosing life. That's it.
Exactly. Choosing life.
Choosing life is letting it all in.
Yeah. And that takes the emotional energy out of tasks, which makes them not feel like you're spinning plates.
Yeah.
Even though you can still do the same things. And it just doesn't feel like you're heavy.
It's like, you know, I can walk around the house and there's just stuff lying around everywhere.
Yeah.
And I can walk around picking it up effortlessly. I can let it sit there effortlessly. I can also pick it up being like, why the hell is this here again? Or I can leave it there being like, fucking hell, that's not my problem. And that happens 5 times, like each one of those happens 5 times a day, and each one of them is completely fine.
And this is what I was saying. Because I was in exactly the same mindset from childhood, because I mean, I remember doing lots of housework as a child, and I think I resented that. And it's just, I don't want to look at things and think that they represent a job half done, because there are things everywhere. I have every opportunity to ruin my mental state. I can look at anything and just choose to go down that rabbit hole and decide that it's a job half done and get annoyed about it. Or I can just see it for what it is. Tea towel on the chair, unplugged light, my phone carelessly thrown haphazardly onto the footstool there. Am I going to berate myself for that? No. Am I going to get angry with someone for that? No.
Yeah.
I don't want this stuff to represent those emotions. It just is what it is.
Well, yeah, but I've never managed that. So I've found that fighting anything one way or another is complete rubbish. In fact, not only am I off the hook about my emotions, I'm also off the hook about having to, like, in a way, having to control them. And also off the hook about the thoughts that I'm having. And also off the hook, kind of, with my behavior. Because there's dissociation where it's saying, like, I'm not responsible for my behavior, which is not what I'm talking about. It's more like there's a lesson here that I'm not seeing, and I need to repeat this behavior until I see it. It's like sometimes I'm doing things and I'm behaving, in quote unquote, like a spoiled teenager or like a child. And I'm kind of doing it on purpose. And there's a part of me that's just watching me do it, going like, what is that? Why am I like, what am I doing here? But at the same time, I also know that if I can't solve it, then maybe I'm overcomplicating it. And maybe looking at a blue plastic coin and thinking that's mine while staring at it is the most powerful thing I can do, because that just keeps it on one point, and keeping it on one point cuts through everything. And so it makes, like, once you're in that state, I'll call it a state of mind, but it's actually the dropping away of states of mind. It's like seeing things as they are, which is nothing. Seeing something as nothing is freeing and terrifying at the same time. So not just being like, oh, like, because I know that if I'm just like, oh, I've got to see things as they are, it's just a cup lying around, it's just a nappy on the floor, it's just a towel on the floor in the bathroom, it just is what it is, then that's me also negotiating with my ego. And as long as I'm negotiating with my ego, it's like that will last for as long as that negotiation lasts, which is the 10 seconds it takes for me to go, no, suppress that hatred and anger that you have. Just don't let it control you. That isn't it either. That isn't it either. You've got to go into it
asks
and
to be
like,
felt.
yeah, it's got to be felt. It's got to be felt. It's got to be like, I'm here all alone, left to do all of this stuff. Right?
Yeah.
That might be the kernel of it. That's mine. You took that from me. That's so powerful. And you don't even have to know what the memory is. Just feeling that while staring at the inanimate object cuts through all of the complication.
It brings it down to the actual thing that's happening, that's underlying the loop, that's underlying the weight of, and this
All
underlying
of the stories.
the idea that it's a spinning plate that you need to keep doing. You've got to keep tidying this place up, because if you don't, it's messy. And if it's messy, it means, and it's like a kind of house of cards of denial. You can't admit one part of it, otherwise the whole thing comes down and you'd have to feel the thing that's at the bottom.
Yeah, but that's the great thing, which is like the house of cards falls by itself. Don't look at the house of cards. Just look
How
at,
does it fall?
I don't know, it's just gone. That's the wonderful thing. It's just gone. It just once you sit there and stare at a thing and be like, that's mine, and you really sit there and feel that's mine, that's it. That's all you got to do. There's nothing else. Don't worry about the stories. The stories will go away by themselves.
I feel like
Or
the
even if the
stories go
stories-
away once it's felt.
Sorry?
The stories go away once it's felt. That's how I feel about these things. That's how it
Yeah.
is for me. Once you feel it through,
Yeah.
then the whole thing goes, like we said before, you can't, you can barely remember it.
What does put the bucket in the bucket mean?
So one of the meanings that I've got for this, and I think it's got two meanings, but I'll share one of them now, is exactly this plate spinning that we've been talking about. So the way things were in my life before is that I felt like I was spinning all of the plates, right? Job, relationship, kids, all the tasks that need to be done, balancing everything. Everything was a balancing act. I could only carry so much. All of the roles that I'd been playing were also part of this plate spinning, part of the emotional heaviness of it. And at some point, then, the universe asked of me to spin up another plate, which was to grieve. So all of these plates that I was spinning, the image I have is like, okay, job, put it in the bucket. Okay, that's in there. Right, now what? Okay, be a good dad. Okay, that's in the bucket. Now what? Okay, play the role of father figure. Okay, that's that. Okay, play the role of emotional messenger for the whole family. Okay, that's in that. All of that heaviness, all of those roles, put them in the bucket to understand it. It's like the bucket of understanding. And it was just getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. Then dad dies. And the thing was, my identity was built around, don't be like dad. And I don't know if it was really like a logical thing, but it was like, how can you be not like something that doesn't exist anymore? It kind of was like, my brain needed to divide by 0.
Exactly.
If you divide by 0, and that's why I said before, it was like no, there was no logical step.
You have to construct an idea of a thing out there in the world, solidify it in your mind, and then become the opposite of that thing.
Exactly. And the thing was, my identity
impossible.
was that bucket. But the idea of grieving, I had to put in the bucket. But I was the bucket. So so the whole thing just exploded. It's like you've got a bucket and you've got all of your things in it. And the last thing you need to put in it, because your task is to put everything in the bucket. That's how I was living my life. Understand it, put it in the book, understand it. And my understanding of myself was, don't be like dad. But he doesn't exist anymore. So the thing I need to understand is the bucket. So I need to put the bucket in the bucket. And my brain divided by 0 and everything just started burning.
That's powerful. That's powerful.